So we do a variety of things. I mean, I'll take them out to the woods and do different activities. We may do a ropes course, the DISC program, which is personality tests. But also what we do is read books. So I usually give it to them in the summer. And so we read different type of books and then we talk about it. So we read Who Moved My Cheese? So who's Sniff? Who's Curry? Who's always going to do the same thing and not take risk and go out of their way? Or, you know, so if you read Who Moved My Cheese, you know what I'm talking about. We've read Tuesday with Maury. We've read 7 People You Meet in Heaven. This last book, and I'm going to tell you, if you haven't read it, please read it, because we're reading it, and that's now kind of our slogan. We don't want any energy vampires. Energy Bus. Read it. Energy Bus. And there's 10 kind of rules with the Energy Bus. And so we're always like, we start practice October 1st, we're like, we're on the Energy Bus, coach. So now there's a phrase that now we can put to something that's even more meaningful. So we read books and we talk about it in a group. All right? Now, there's so many people in the world that are energy takers and energy givers are fewer. Energy takers, how many of people in your world that anytime you don't want to pick up the phone and call and ask how they're doing because they are going to tell you. And you're on the phone for an hour and you say nothing, right? They just want to have a bad day every day. They want to complain and gripe while they're doing something about it. And that's in the workplace. That's on the street passing somebody. That's me getting in my rental car and somebody not being very nice. You know, whatever it could be. But how many people do you try to make smile every day? How many do you give energy or you take energy? Now, we all have good days and bad days, and we all have some major issues sometime. That's going to be draining. There's no question. But there's some people that just drain you every second, and we talk about that on our team. If you're a drainer, you're not going to be on this team. If you're a drainer, you're not going to practice. You're not going to play games. You're just going to go in the classroom and be there, and you're not going to be part of this team. Because in today's world, when someone does one thing wrong, they think it's the end of the world. These kids think it's over. And all of a sudden, they have their parents come in and try to take care of it. We call them helicopter parents. Now they're helicopter hovering parents. Each year it gets worse. Okay, because everybody fixes stuff for them. Okay, so we talk about energy takers, energy givers. On this team this year, we have all energy givers. And this is going to be a phenomenal year. You can say, well, is this person healthy, this person healthy? Can they shoot? It has nothing to do with skill set. It has to do with the mental, emotional part, and if they're givers. Because if they're draining people, we're never going to be the best that we can be. No way. And our staff's so excited to come in every day. Because I'll tell you the truth, sometimes you walk in like, I wonder how so-and-so's mood today. I don't even have that this year. I'm like the happiest coach ever. And they want to keep me happy, because a happy coach means they're happy. And then I won't get mad, I won't make run on and get crazy on them. So they see a difference in me because they've made changes, they've made a difference. That's big. That's huge. So we do all that, and now it gets to, obviously, them being ambassadors for the university. Ambassadors of the university is not, you just don't play basketball here and you're just not a student here. You are representing something bigger. And so, of course, we're promoting strong, strong women, day in and day out. You can do anything. Someone tells you cannot do something, do not listen to them. Knock down the wall. I helped knock down the wall. I played with boys when I grew up, and then Title IX allowed us to knock down that wall and be able to have more opportunities for women. And the women we have on our team are student athletes. They are ambassadors. Okay, so then it gets down to the communication piece. How many of you have iPads? How many of you have iPhone 5? Okay, so we got some good, you guys are good. I'm not up there yet. No, I'm all right. The technology and the way we communicate to our young people today is nothing like it used to be. Okay, I'm 46. I think I'm still young, still got it. I've lost it. That's why I have young people on my staff. Because they text stuff and I'm like, what does this mean? You know, it's all abbreviated, you know. IDK, I'm like, IDK. I don't know. Okay, I got it. You know, but just communicate. So the next piece for us, and I'm going to talk about recruiting and communicating in social media. Because all that's wrapped up in one. So the communication style is so different. Used to be back in the day, who had those big old bag phones? You had the phone in the bag. You thought you were really cool. You put it in the cigarette lighter. My mom had one, so I just remember that. You know, or when I used to recruit way back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. You pull over, you're on a payphone. Okay? Trying to do your job. So today what's different, and even with these kids, they have the social media. So they have Twitter, they have Facebook. Text messaging, we can't do a lot with recruits, and I'll get there. You know, they have blogs, they have all this stuff out there for them, okay? Now, with me, they have to set up meetings and still talk to us face-to-face. They're interviewed. They're going to communicate with me face-to-face, okay? Because what happens in a text? What happens in an email? You can't hear the tone, but what is the perception when you're reading something sometimes? They're supposed to come across one way, and you're reading it totally different. It's like when I'm saying something up here, all of you have a different perception. You're hearing something different when I say something. This is how it is. So if I email and say, you need to do this, they're like, oh, coach is in a good mood today. Rather than just saying, oh, she just gave me a statement, I just need to do this. Okay, so we make sure there's no miscommunication whatsoever. So if they have an issue, if they're going to be late or something, they need to say, hey, I'm running late from class, they can text me and do that. But when they're like, oh, coach, I need to talk to you. Well, you're going to pick up the phone and call me. Or you're going to come into my office. Because a lot of young people do not have interpersonal communications whatsoever now. Because they go into even academically, and then what? They're on computers. You know, now you can take computers on, you know, stuff online, you're doing FaceTime, taking class. There's no personal interaction. And so we're losing that. So, we're talking about, we call it the emotional IQ, okay, or the emotional intellectual side. These kids that are growing up do not have it. Okay, so we have to teach them how to do things. So you're saying, what's emotional IQ? Well, emotional intellectual ability is, if I'm going to break up with my boyfriend, I'm going to text him, I'm done with you. I'm done. That's how they do it. You're laughing. This is how they work. You don't, I mean, I'm trying to understand it. I'm like, you just broke up with your boyfriend, you texted? Now, our girls haven't done it because we make them grow, we make them understand that when you have an issue, you go face-to-face with somebody. And that's why we're so good and so close. You don't go run and tell your other little friends, because 14 women is pretty tough to deal with in the first place. So they now know if they have a problem, they go face-to-face and have a conversation with their teammate or with their coach or whomever. You guys understand that? A lot of people don't teach that skill. They're just like, oh, just deal with it. But kids do that. So are they dealing with any type of emotion, hurt? When they're looking face-to-face and someone's crying and someone's heartbroken or they're happy, are they even getting any emotional stimulation? No. That is what this media and all this technology is now done to our society. Seriously. I looked at my nephews one time and I'm like, okay, you're saying hi, and then they come back, and then you're like, what's going on? I'm like, there's no substance. There's no substance. And these kids, they sleep with their phones. And they're wondering why they're tired. They sleep, they hear it vibrate, then they fall asleep. They're interrupted. They sleep with their phones. And you may say, oh no, they do. And I'm like, hallelujah, 11 o'clock, I'm turning this thing off so I can sleep. That's how I am. They have different numbers. They can call my home phone, whatever it may be, but it's just different. So when we have certain rules for our kids, they can only use their phones a certain time. I don't take them away, but I'm like, when we're on the bus studying, you got 2 hours. You're studying on the bus, and then fine, do what you need to do with your phones. Okay? When we go, they never can bring them to dinner. They can never bring them to a team meeting. They can never, none of that. Workouts, nothing. So we set guidelines because it's a way of life. It's a lifeline for them. And it made it so easy for everybody to get a hold of them. So for example, we went to Europe last year. The kids thought they were going to just not live without their phones. Like, you can take your phones, but when you have it on, it's going to be roaming, and it's going to be so expensive, and you're going to be crying because you don't have any money to pay for the bill. So you need to keep them home. And we had 2 people bring them, so when they were in groups, they could text us coach and let them know when they got back after curfew, when we had curfew and that type of thing. They got there, and they had to talk to each other. They love each other, but they had to talk to people. Maybe, because it doesn't matter who you are. You're in a group, you're going to be closer to these 4 or 5 people, especially in your class, or 4 or 5. They're all close, but all of a sudden there was relationships with kids that didn't have that deep relationship. They got to know each other. And then you make up games and be creative. You know how we used to do? Mom and Dad would just throw us outside and say, figure it out. And we did. We made up games, kick the can, ring Olivia. We did whatever we needed to do. But we were creative and nobody taught us how to do stuff. We did it on our own. That's how they were natural leaders. And now everybody's saying, you have to be a leader, you're in this spot. Nothing's natural about it. But they loved it. They're like, coach, they go, don't take this personal, but no one's bothering me. And they met their parents. And other people, like, what are you doing now? What's coach doing now? What are you doing? They constantly, we're as bad as they are because we want to know what's going on every single minute. And if you don't talk to your kid on a text like a certain amount of time, you're like, oh my God, they don't like me anymore. They don't love me. They don't need me. We all go through that. So I really think the communication piece is so important. And I have to learn constantly.